1944. The Battle for Normandy. The morning after D-Day dawned gray and heavy. Smoke still lingered above Omaha Beach, drifting inland like a shroud over the living and the dead. The sea behind them was calm now, deceptively so, hiding the blood it had carried only hours before. Private James Miller trudged up from the sand with his rifle slung across his shoulder, boots caked with mud and seawater. His body ached, his mind burned with exhaustion. Every muscle screamed, but the order was clear. Move inland, push forward. Davis walked beside him, limping slightly, a strip of cloth tied around his arm where shrapnel had grazed him. "They call this a victory," he muttered. "Feels more like survival." Miller didn't answer. He just stared at the horizon. Endless hedgerows, fields divided by thick earthen walls of roots and leaves. The Normandy countryside looked peaceful, almost beautiful. But every rustle, every shadow carried danger. Behind them, medics carried stretchers. Ahead, the sound of gunfire cracked through the morning mist. War had not ended on the beach. It had only changed its shape. That night, Miller opened his notebook again by the flicker of a dying campfire. Diary, June 7th, 1944. We've left the sea behind. The smell of salt is gone, replaced by wet earth and gunpowder. We march through villages that don't look like they should be at war. Stone houses, flower boxes, cows still grazing, and yet every window could hide a rifle. Davis says he'll never complain about Ohio's flat fields again. He closed the book, staring into the flames. Tomorrow they would advance deeper into Normandy. Tomorrow, the war would find them again. By the third day, they reached a small French village, Sainte-Croix-sur-Mer, or what was left of it. Roofs had caved in, windows were shattered. A church bell lay half buried in rubble. Sergeant Hanley signaled for the men to spread out. "Stay sharp. Could be Crayots hiding anywhere." Miller and Davis moved through the main street, stepping over debris. Somewhere a dog barked, echoing eerily through the ruins. In one doorway, Miller found a child's toy, a wooden horse, splintered and burned. He picked it up, stared for a moment, then set it gently on a windowsill. "Think they're coming back?" Davis asked quietly. "I hope so," Miller said, "if there's anything left to come back to." They found no Germans, only silence. But that silence weighed heavier than gunfire. Later, as they rested behind a wall, a group of villagers emerged from hiding, thin, wide-eyed, trembling. An old woman clutched a rosary, whispering prayers as American medics offered food and water. For the first time, Miller saw gratitude in a stranger's eyes. Fragile, desperate, real. It steadied him more than any order could. That night, the men shared rations and stories. Someone produced a harmonica. For a brief hour, laughter replaced gunfire. But even laughter felt like a borrowed thing. Something the war could take back at any moment. The next morning, they pushed south toward St. Lo. The hedgerows, thick walls of earth and vegetation, turned every field into a fortress. Visibility was nearly zero. Each turn could hide an ambush. Hanley raised his fist. "Quiet. Eyes up." The column slowed. Birds chirped above, too calmly. Miller's gut tightened. He heard the faint click of metal. Down. Machine gun fire exploded from the brush. Bullets shredded leaves, bit into the soil. The squad dove for cover. Davis returned fire, shouting curses drowned out by gunfire. Miller's rifle kicked against his shoulder. He saw a flash, a German helmet gone in a blink. the air filled with dirt and smoke. Hanley yelled, "Flank left! Move! Move!" Miller crawled through the mud, heart hammering. He lobbed a grenade over the hedge. The explosion ripped through the undergrowth. Screams followed. Distant, final. When the noise died, the world went still again. They'd lost 2 men. PFC Turner lay face down, unmoving. Miller stared at him for a long time. The man had joked about opening a diner back home just the night before. Davis placed a hand on Miller's shoulder. "Keep moving, Jimmy. We can't stop here." But Miller's legs felt like lead. He realized for the first time, this was how it would go. One by one, faces would vanish into the mud and smoke, and there would be no time to mourn. That evening, the rain came hard, sheets of it pounding on their helmets as they camped in a ruined barn. The roof leaked. The air reeked of damp straw and oil. Miller sat in the corner with his diary open, though the pages were nearly too wet to write on. Diary, June 10th, 1944. We lost Turner today. Hanley said his name like it was just another report, but it wasn't. It was a life. I keep thinking of the stories he told, about his diner and the girl who promised to wait for him. I don't know if I'll ever send the letter in my pocket, the one to my mother. Maybe it's better she remembers me as I was. Maybe we all stay alive that way. Davis sat nearby, cleaning his rifle. "You ever think about what you'll do after all this?" he asked. Miller gave a tired smile. "If there's an after." Thunder rolled outside. Neither spoke again. Days later, they approached the outskirts of St. Lo. The Germans were dug in, mortars hidden in hedgerows, snipers in church towers. The air was thick with smoke and heat. Hanley barked orders. "We move at dawn. Tanks will clear the line. We follow close." When dawn came, the assault began. Artillery lit the sky. Sherman tanks rolled forward, crushing fences and trees alike. Miller ran beside Davis, ducking behind a burning cart. "Go left," Davis shouted, pointing toward a farmhouse. They sprinted through the smoke, bullets snapping around them. Inside the farmhouse, they found a German machine gun team setting up. Instinct took over. 2 shots, 3, then silence. Miller's ears rang. His hands trembled. They moved again. Through the fields, over the dead, toward the next hedger. Then came the shell. A sudden, earth-shattering blast. Miller was thrown backward, the world spinning, ears deafened. When his vision cleared, he saw Davis lying a few yards away. Still blood pooling beneath him. "Davis!" Miller crawled forward, heart breaking open. No, stay with me." Davis's eyes flickered. He managed a faint smile. "Told you. Ohio's better," he whispered. Then nothing. Miller froze. Around him, the battle still raged. Shouts, explosions, chaos. But for him, the world had gone silent. He pressed his forehead against his friend's helmet and whispered, "I'll get us through, I promise." When it was over, when St. Lo finally fell days later, Miller buried Davis near a field of sunflowers. He carved a cross from a piece of wood and placed it at the head of the grave. The battle for St. Lo ended with rubble and silence. The town that once stood proud was reduced to dust and fire. Miller sat among the ruins, diary open on his lap. His uniform was torn, his face smeared with mud and tears. Diary, July 20th, 1944. The war moves on, But part of me stays here, in these fields, with him. I used to think courage was charging forward. Now I think it's surviving when you don't want to. Davis would tell me to keep going. So I will. For him. For all of them. He looked around at what was left of the town. Twisted metal, shattered stone, and yet, in one corner, a single white flower growing from the rubble. Life, stubborn and quiet. He closed the notebook slowly, tying it shut. "You're still with me, brother," he murmured. Weeks later, Miller marched again, thinner, harder, quieter. The men around him were new faces now. But he carried the same small notebook, its pages stained and wrinkled. He didn't write that day. He didn't need to. Every step forward was another line in his story. Somewhere ahead lay Paris, then Germany. Somewhere behind, the ghosts of Normandy followed, silent, proud, eternal. And though the war would rage for another year, James Miller had already learned its cruelest truth. That victory was not survival. It was remembrance. Private James Miller continued with the 1st Infantry Division through the Hedgerows and into St. Lo. His diary would grow thinner, his words fewer, but his resolve deeper. In every step, he carried the memory of the friend who didn't make it home, and the unspoken promise that courage would mean something. Long after the guns went silent.